The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insights. I'm Erica Fernandez, and I'm joined here this morning by David Henning. Thank you so much for being here today, David.
Thank you.
So today we're talking about different issues that society faces when it comes to veterans in the community. So, David, you are a 20-year veteran, correct?
Yes.
So go ahead and tell me a little bit about your military background.
I enlisted in the Army 2 weeks after high school, graduating high school in 1990. Around Detroit. I served for 20 years all over the world, from Germany to Korea, all over the States, and in 3 deployments in Iraq. I had several different MOSs in different jobs throughout my career. And I came in the opportunity of moving back to Alpena after I retired, after I completed college, right after retirement.
So tell me, what sparked your interest in joining the military in the first place?
My father, all my uncles, family members, they all served in the military. Many of them in wartime veterans. And growing up at deer camp, listening to the war stories, you know, from a little kid, you know, that's what I wanted to be. I knew from a little kid that is what I was going to do in life. I'm going to serve in the military.
So you would say it's definitely runs in the family, probably runs in your blood.
Maybe not as far as I took it, but
yeah,
I would, yeah.
So can you summarize your experience in the military for me? I know that you said you've traveled many different places and you fought, but can you even try to summarize or explain to me your experience?
I served in Germany, Korea, Texas, Kentucky, Kansas, and in duty and in schooling all over in other states also. I served mostly in the armor branch, so I was a tanker, and then later on in my career I became a tank maintainer on the Abrams main battle tank. So that would be my career field, with several different MOSs within that field.
Can you go into a little bit more details about like what you would actually do as part of your job?
Okay, as an operator of an Abrams tank, you're either a driver, loader, gunner, or tank commander, 4 different positions. As a lower ranking soldier, E1 through E4, or private through specialist, you'd serve as a driver or a loader. And you have to be expected to cross-train and to be able to do the other jobs too. So if you're the loader, you train to be the driver. You, after you gain experience, a couple years experience, you would eventually, and based on merit, you would eventually work your way into a gunner's position to be the gunner on that tank. And then from there, with more experience, you'd become the tank commander. And then with even more experience, you'd become a platoon sergeant with 4 tanks and 16 personnel. And as a tank maintainer, I worked in the maintenance, on a maintenance team that maintained a company of tanks, which is approximately 14 tanks, approximately 65 personnel. And we maintain the equipment of that company. Whether it be in the motor pool at a stateside duty station or forward deployed in Iraq at the end of the supply chain, we kept those vehicles combat ready.
So how would you say that your time in the military has prepared you for life outside of the military?
I would say that the transition part of the Army today, again, I have no basis to compare it to, but from just talking to many other veterans of other time periods, I would say the Army does a lot to counsel soldiers to transition back to civilian life and set those soldiers up with success. Everything from the 9/11 GI Bill, which is an education benefit, which pays for 100% tuition for all in-state schools around the country, and plus provide a stipend of the basic housing allowance for a sergeant with 1 dependent as a stipend for each month to pay for rent and food. So they get paid while they go to school, and their tuition's 100% covered. It's absolutely, it's, to the Bernie Sanders crowd, that's one way to pay for college. Just saying.
So outside of that, as far as outside of the benefits from being in the military, what are some of the challenges that you would say that you've faced since
Outside of the military?
Since you've left, and I know it's probably a hard way to put it. I mean, yes, you are still a veteran, but you're no longer in combat. So since returning back to, I guess, civilian life, what are some of the more difficult challenges that you faced?
I guess, being in that environment for 20 years, you hear veterans talk about, I guess the one thing would be like the cohesion of the unit. That's developed, especially a unit that's training up to and then going to Iraq for a 12-month-long deployment. You become incredibly tight with individuals over there, and then you come back and then the unit breaks apart and new people come in and old people go away, and then you start the process over again. There's nothing like it in the civilian world, except maybe like, I would imagine maybe like police department or fire or something like that. There's really nothing else like it in the civilian world. Finding people to relate to. Because I could sit here and tell war stories, but you have to explain every little detail to most civilians, and they have no idea. Most of it goes over their head, and you can tell that. You can read the body language in the eyes, and they don't know what you're talking about. So finding people to relate to about your experiences.
So how would you say that you've adjusted to life outside of combat?
After I retired from the Army, I went to college and graduated with my bachelor's degree from Texas A&M, and then moved up here, and I had the opportunity to purchase some of my grandpa's land, which I thought was a great opportunity, and I did so. And then I'm also closer to family, and now I'm in a position now where I have a job. I have employment helping veterans. Helping them transition and some of them served in Vietnam, and they're still transitioning.
Perfect. All right. So we actually have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to continue speaking with David about life outside of the military. Welcome back, everyone. I'm still here with David, and David, go ahead and tell me a little bit about the community's support that you've seen from the area here in Alpena.
I see a lot of activity coming out of the local VFW posts concerning veterans, the different activities that they have going on there, and it's veterans. It's centralized around veterans. As far as me personally, when a local someone from the community notices that I am a veteran, I have had people approach me and thank me for my service and everything, and they seem just incredibly genuine and grateful. I've had that before in other places, and I just make sure I show my appreciation back. When they say thank me for my service, I like to reply that, well, this is a country we're serving.
So you mentioned that you actually work for the county now, after receiving your bachelor's, and now you have your job. What are some of the bigger issues that you would say that you see that veterans face every single day?
A lot of our claims, a lot of our work that we do for veterans deal with claims for compensation or pension. For the big part of our job, for the smaller things that we do would be something as simple as requesting a veteran's records from the national or the state records departments, concerning military service. Not a lot of, I would say a lot of the veterans, just by the nature of this community, are on the older side, more mature side. Vietnam era, we deal with a lot of folks from that time period. But once in a while we do get the younger veterans coming in that served in Iraq and Afghanistan. That would be a different problem set there. those guys where we'll help them with the health care like any other veteran, but I may refer them also to helping them get on the right track for education benefits through the VA.
So from the outside looking in, and I guess actually you are kind of on the inside as well since you are a veteran, what do you think that needs to be done as a society in order to help veterans succeed once they come out of war?
They need to understand the military would provide a lot of, would provide them their focus for the most part. Obviously, individual career moves would be on each person while in service. When they leave the military, they leave that behind. They need to get their own focus and set their own goals. And they need to become aware of that. As far as that, they have to develop that themselves as a civilian, as a veteran. I like to, when I talk to my younger veterans that coming in, like that just recently discharged, I like to point out to them that they have options to go to college. They have options to get jobs with the state and in the local community with a veteran's preference. And they have soft skills that developed while serving in the military that takes years for someone who didn't serve in the military to develop in a workplace. Things like leadership and team building, being able to operate in a chaotic environment. Most civilians generally, I mean, they're not used to doing that. Where if you deployed to Iraq for more than 5 minutes, you might have seen chaos.
Yeah. So what about for certain veterans that may be what some businesses might consider overqualified? There's a lot going on. Maybe it's too much of a hassle to hire a veteran that's been through so much. What advice would you give somebody that just can't seem to get a job, especially, just anywhere, even like a simple, easy job? What advice would you give them?
Their persistence is what's going to, their persistence, resume building, get with somebody who knows how to write resumes. The local, bring a resume to me. I know how to write them. I can coach them on that. The resume gets you the interview gets you the job. So with that strategy in mind, you translate your military skills to civilian terminology. And many of those skills, like I was saying earlier, that they gained in the military, they're far ahead of their peers who never served in the military. They're far ahead. Many of those soft skills. So I would definitely emphasize that in the job hunting category. That's the selling point. And that's what you need to translate to employers and help them understand that.
So as far as if somebody is watching this right now and they're trying to, they're just not sure what their next step is as far as job or career or just anything in life, what advice would you want to give to them?
Their time in the military was one time in their life. It's something that they should never forget, but they should not live in that time. Their way forward is straight ahead. It's one foot in front of the other. And, especially living in an area like Alpena, there's not a very strong military presence here. Those veterans need to understand that there are other folks in this area just like them, right? And that we've all been where they're at. And it's just a matter of getting them focused straight forward, identifying what their goals are in life, their near, mid, and long-term goals are in life, and doing the things they need to do to work towards them.
All right, great. So if, like you said earlier, there are so many characteristics and attributes that you gain in the military that are really beneficial to life outside of combat. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here today, David.
You bet.
Stay tuned because coming up next, I'll speak with George Stevens, who is the director from the Veterans Affairs here in Alpena. Welcome back, everyone. I'm joined here right now with George Stevens, who is the director of the VA here in Alpena. Thank you so much for being here today, George.
You're welcome.
So tell me a little bit about your position and how you got involved with the VA.
Well, I retired from a regular job here in Alpena And after a few years, got a little bit bored with fishing and hunting and all the other things you do around here. But I was the commander of VFW Post 2496, and the county needed to develop a millage that would support the Office of Veteran Affairs. So they were looking for someone to run that political action committee, so I formed that and got the millage, helped get the millage passed, and that allowed my predecessor to open up an office that's across from the clinic, the Clement C. Van Wagner Veterans Clinic in Alpena in the Harborside Mall. And we have an office right across the hall, and that's part of, we established that with part of the millage, and I became a part-time person there, became accredited, and when Dan passed away, I took over his job. And I've been working there now for almost 5 years.
So you are a veteran yourself, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the services that you guys provide at the VA.
Well, first of all, the health services that are for veterans, we can sign them up in our office. It's right across the hall. They can go through and tour the medical facilities over there. It's based on income and other stuff, but the main thing is for most veterans trying to get health care or other benefits is their discharge papers. So I would urge them to keep their discharge papers in a safe spot in their house, let their their family know where that is and what it is. If they don't have discharge papers, we can send away for them. Some of them have actually papers at the county that they don't even know about. So we can get those discharge papers for them and proceed with whatever health care or other compensation or pension needs that they may have.
So you are a veteran yourself, and you've worked with veterans for many years now. What are some of the bigger issues that you've seen that are more prominent with veterans after they come back from the military?
Well, the veterans that are coming back now have a hard time basically with injuries such as TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. Unlike the Vietnam veterans who have a lot of chemical issues like herbicides, PTSD of course, and issues like that. So once we get established what they need for their care, we sign them up for benefits, whether it be compensation or pension or schooling or loans or insurance and things like that.
So outside of the VA here in Alpena, do you feel like the community offers enough services in order to help veterans succeed?
Absolutely. We have a lot of services here in the community for veterans. Basically, it's up to them to come in and see us at our office and apply themselves and get moving on their health care and whatever injuries they may have had during the service that they neglected. It's time to get that taken care of.
So we mentioned earlier when I was speaking with David about how some veterans are having trouble finding jobs once they come back from post-combat. What is some advice that you would offer to some of the veterans?
I would tell them to come in and see us. We have different programs available to them. There's a lot of community interest in hiring veterans now. So if they're not going to follow up on any education that they already have, or if they need education, we can help them with that. But most of all, there are a lot of jobs out there for veterans. A lot of it they can apply for through us, or they can go to Michigan Works, where they have a veterans counselor there that can help them out. But there's veteran preference jobs all over the state and northern Michigan.
You mentioned earlier a little bit how some veterans are facing health issues once they return from war, whether that's TBI or PTSD and things like that. Why do you think that some veterans are reluctant for seeking help?
Well, I find that the veterans that are just coming back the last 5 years, last 10 years actually, know a lot about what they're supposed to be getting from the VA. So they've been trained, whether it be their Army when they get out, or the Marines, or Navy, whatever, to go and find out what their benefits are. Come and see counselors like David and I, and we can set them in the right direction. Now, the older veterans, the Vietnam veterans, have neglected to come in. They felt that it wasn't really something that they wanted to do. Veterans today are kind of glorified by everybody. Back then, the Vietnam veterans were not welcome home. But now they're starting to come out of the woodwork. They have PTSD issues. They've got health issues from herbicides. And we're here to help them take care of those issues.
So there was a bill that was passed recently about veterans being able to use local hospitals instead of just the VA hospitals. What do you think the benefits are of that bill being passed?
Basically, what we're talking about is a choice card. Mm-hmm. The veterans that go to our clinic in Alpena have to travel to Saginaw, Ann Arbor, or Detroit for any medical stuff that they need that's past our clinic's limitations. So the VA has developed a choice card where they can enroll in the choice program. If they have a appointment down in Ann Arbor, they can't, they have a hard time getting around, they have to drive down there, whatever, they can call on this choice program card that they have and get their appointment done in the area somewhere. And what that does is the VA has like eye clinics and other ear clinics, stuff like that, that will take care of veterans, and they will accept the bills from the VA. So this is allowing a lot of veterans to take advantage of their area instead of having to travel for their health benefits.
Especially since there have been a lot of stories about veterans having to wait long periods of times to be seen, and then that resulting in sometimes death while waiting to be seen.
Mm-hmm. That's not a real big problem here in Michigan. Mm-hmm. There are some problem areas in the South and other places. Our clinic here is highly regarded by all the veterans who come here. They may have slight problems in Saginaw, Ann Arbor, and Detroit, but on a whole, Michigan is very good health-wise for veterans. There's not a long wait. This choice program is going to make it even better for them.
All right, and like you mentioned, Michigan is very helpful for veterans and the Northeast Michigan area as well. Absolutely. All right, great. Thank you so much for being here today, George. That'll do it for today's Insights, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.